I had surgery on my jaw when I was in high school. So I got a bottle of liquid hydrocodone to take home with me. And so that was kind of my introduction into opioids. And I just loved it. That was like my favorite thing to do that summer was get up in the morning, take my little shot of liquid Loratab, and then go pick my brother up from his sailing lessons. And then it was just kind of the same trajectory as a lot of people where your tolerance builds up, it takes more and more. And then they started to tighten up the laws on doctor shopping and getting prescriptions refilled for opioids and a lot of that stuff, which made it harder to get, which made all those pills that I was buying get a lot more expensive. So I switched to heroin because it was cheaper. And then that went on for several years. I met Alex before heroin, so in the Oxycontin phase. That's when I met Alex at the Hilo Club.
We've been together for 10 years, and next month we will have been married for 4 years. I knew that he was using pills sometimes, but to be honest, I knew and still know people who use pills casually. So I wasn't super alarmed by it at the time. Mostly I just saw him drinking, and I was in my early 20s and I was drinking a lot too. I didn't understand why he kept getting fired from his jobs. I didn't understand why he just wasn't super engaged with me. I figured it out, and then I kicked you out of our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have money for our bills.
Because he'd spent all his money on drugs. I kicked him out because he couldn't pay half of the rent and half of the bills, not because I didn't want to be with him anymore, because I still did.
Well, I overdosed in a public bathroom, and so I got arrested that night. And I was in jail for a while, and then when I got out of jail, I went to treatment because my family and everyone was like, as soon as you get out, you're going. And that night, I was in inpatient treatment. And then I came home, and I was home for 2 days, and I overdosed again. And then when I got to the hospital, they gave me more Narcan in my IV. And that's when I remember how painful it is to be Narcaned, because everything happens all at once. So if you go through opioid withdrawal, it's usually 5 to 7 days, and it's painful, and you have all the physical symptoms and everything. But when you get Narcaned, it rips all the opioids off your receptors all at once. So it's that week or so of physical withdrawal all at once. And I remember that in the hospital. And so then I went back to treatment. So I left treatment on a Sunday, and the following Sunday I was back at the same treatment center for another 3 months.
Well, we still talked almost every day.
I called you all the time.
And so I continued to go see him and visit him at the treatment center.
Then after I got out of treatment, I was in a sober living house for a little while. And I was in there for a few months, and then relapsed again, got kicked out of that house, and then moved back in, and then got kicked out again. And I went back to jail again. Then I got sober a few months after the last time I went to jail.
I was not doing well. I was drinking a lot. I was really sad, and the worst part about loving someone who is using drugs or just using substances is that no matter how much you want them to get sober or how much you want them to value their life, you can't make them do that. You can't get sober for someone else. You can't take any steps to push them towards recovery, because it doesn't work. The only way that someone is going to recover is when it's their time and when they want to make that choice. Once I knew that he was on drugs, and I was able to kind of pick up on his patterns and his behavior and his physical appearance, I would absolutely know. Every time he was on drugs, I knew. And especially when someone that you love and know so well is just lying right to your face, and you're just okay. Our interactions were not great, but we also really loved each other. I knew him before he was using heroin or using meth, and I knew how good he could be, and I knew what a great father he was. and what a great son and a great partner he was. And I knew that he was capable of more, which also just made it so much more frustrating because I knew that he could accomplish so many other things if he just wasn't letting heroin like control every step of his life. Nothing that I did like made his life and his sobriety what it is. That was all him. You know, I was there, but I didn't do any of that work. He put in and continues to put in so much work into his recovery, and now into, you know, sponsoring other people who are also struggling with addiction.
I'm grateful to have a sober partner. A lot of people don't get that. You know what I mean? It's usually one person in the relationship that is struggling. But since we're both sober, like it's a big part of it for me because I don't have to worry about anything.
In 2015, like the night that he got arrested, and I was just in despair, honestly, about like losing my partner and just everything kind of crumbling so fast. And he would have told me that I'd like end up marrying him and that we would be really happy and we would like work together in harm reduction, I would have thought you were crazy.
It's framed more of just like they deserve dignity and they deserve to be safe today. And if recovery is in their path, then that's awesome. And I'm very open about my own story when I go and talk to people and stuff. And if that is something that they want to ask me about or they want to talk about, I'm all for it. Everybody is somebody to someone else. And I've lost friends, you know, to fentanyl, to overdoses. You know, it's a community health issue. It's not a moral issue or a criminal issue. You know, it's public health, and it's, you know, we're all part of the same community. I just feel like we're better off with less dead people.